peoples, good morning. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Haynes Quindy, Disembodied Beard John, and of course our ethereal watcher over Justin. I suppose I can give him a cool title like Ethereal Sentinel, or I could give him kind of a wonky title. I kind of think I have to come up with something wonky. Because John's a disembodied beard, and it's not really fair when he actually talks in chat every once in a while. Really not fair to give Justin some grand and high mighty title, even though any form of spectral energy really just means that Justin is Quindy's slave for life. But, it is what it is. He kind of is anyway, because you've got him on text, Quindy. Oh, is there a big lottery jackpot? I don't even know. Guys, I'm so much happier when I ignore the news. It's so silly. David comes home yesterday and he's like, did you read the blah, blah, blah about the blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, honey, if I start reading about the blah, 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 I will become worried and anxious. Why would I read about blah, blah, blah? I just leave that to you. Oh, wow. A lot of money. Yeah, well, somebody will win it. Probably a couple of somebodies, right, Kiki? Oh, would you like to say hi, Kiki? Yeah, there you go. I've got jeans on today, so you can have purchase. Yes, you can actually be up here and feel safe. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl, Kiki. Good girl. Yeah, everybody loves to see the Kiki. The blah, blah, blah makes me so mad. I know, Trashorama, right? That's the only way we can talk about politics, religion, stress, anything. Right, Kiki? Right? Blah, blah, blah. What is blah, blah, blah? Oh, good girl. It means lickens. That's right. If blah, blah, blah triggers puppy lickens, it's not stressful anymore. Right, Papa? Here's my giant hound. Here's my giant hound for everybody. Hey, Zachariah, you just got in on the tail end of Kiki, or the front end. If her tail end was up here, then I would be worried. Yeah, the news of Kiki sightings is the only news. I'm with you, Twisted Oma. I'm with you. Hi there, baby girl. Oh, you're not so baby anymore. I like putting my head next to hers because then you can really see how big she is. Right, Bubba? Right, Bubba? No comments. Kisses. Good girl. Good girl. That's my good girl. That's my good girl. Yeah, I love my pupper. Even when she's Nami. Good girl. Good girl. But yeah, it was so funny. So I ignore blah blah blah. But that means I don't get any of the fun stuff either. Although I did see this morning in Popular Mechanics that they've managed to finally reproduce a synthetic version of meteorite iron. Meteorite metal. That's kind of cool, isn't it? Let me see here. Boop. Yeah, I watch my esports I watch, so I don't really need to follow any news for that. Although I see it usually on Twitter. Oh, sorry, X. BirdX. We'll just call him BirdX. Like SpaceX, it's BirdX. He should have just called it BirdX. Oh, but anyway, yeah, on that platform that some of us still read, that's where I get my esports news. It's the only reason. It's the only kind of news I really get on that platform. But anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, normally I just avoid the news. I'm honestly, if there's a catastrophe, like the pandemic is back, my husband will tell me. And he's able to, David, his personality is such that he doesn't get as emotionally impacted by the news. And that's a great place to be, but it means that it's a lot safer for him to go and stick his head in the news than it is for me. And the way that I put it, and this is an interesting way to think about it for some of you who might be more like thinky types, is that the more you concentrate on a thing or you give your attention to a thing, the more you're going to think about that thing. Right? For me, I'm a huge thinker. So if I avoid that, then that means, and I concentrate on my writing, my painting, doing cool creative brainstorming stuff, learning Amazon ads, all this kind of thing, then that's what I'm going to be thinking about in my off time instead of thinking about the news that I read this morning. So that's why, for me, going to news sites or even interacting with the news on more than a very shallow basis really isn't optimal at all. Because if I avoid it, then I start out the day thinking about my writing, my painting, my stream with you, and that's where my brain is for the rest of the day. So for me, that's a really healthy thing to do. So think about that. If you find yourself feeling stressed out and maybe you've been interacting a lot with social media, think about maybe taking a day and just like putting the phone to the side or removing those apps and concentrating on the things that are important to you or that make you happy. And just do one day and see how it makes you feel. Thinking is the worst. Coyote puppies. Wow, green users. They're cute. Little devils, I imagine, because all puppies are little devils. And I imagine that of all of the devil puppies, coyote puppies are probably the worst. I think, maybe. Because puppies in general are the worst, and coyote puppies have to be the worst times, like infinity, is what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm just remembering too many Southwest, folklore tales of coyote. Yeah, and now given I am a thinker, like that's one of my strengths. I have a lot in thinking strengths. In fact, the thinkiest of thinky strengths, which is called intellection, is actually in my top 5, Clifton strengths wise. And I see it. I see it every day. But what I really have found is that whatever I give my brain to in the mornings especially is what I'm focused on for most of the rest of the day. So yeah, And I understand, and the thing about the mindless game apps is a lot of people are doing that because they're so stressed out, right? And sometimes it's not the news stress, it's just life stress. Pouncing on each other today, aww. They're practicing for killing prey. It's so adorable. Wow, that was a Jennifer Haley statement if ever. I should text her. That's exactly the sort of thing that Jennifer would say. Jennifer would be like I'd be like, oh, how cute. And she'd be like, oh, they're practicing to rip something's throat out as adults. That's awesome. And I'm like, but that's Jen, guys. If you have not carried on a conversation with Jennifer Haley, that is painter Jennifer Haley. That is exactly the most macabre person I know. Brain always goes there. Her brain is always going there. Oh, yes, any wild animal in most states, Trashorama. That said, coyotes can and do breed with dogs. You do get coy dog hybrids. So, I mean, in that case, it's weird, but it's the same as, I imagine some states, a lot of states have laws against wolf hybrids, and coyote hybrids, I would imagine, be kind of the same thing, but no idea. Yeah, Jen is a very interesting person. Jennifer was the only person I knew who had a calendar of like medieval torture devices, or no, it wasn't torture devices. It was medieval medical practice tools. Like all of the crazy stuff that looked like torture devices, but they were actually once used as medical tools. On a calendar in her kitchen. That's Jen. That's my friend. Yes. Yes. So yeah. So I think go put it back. Good, Quindy, good. Oh, jeez. And sometimes people know, and they're just trying to, like, fool the world. They're like, oh, we can just pretend it's a puppy and keep it. It's like, bad idea, folks. Bad idea. But, humans have a lot of bad ideas, don't they? I mean, that's humanity. Where else are you going to put a calendar? Yeah, right. Oh, dear. But anyway, that's Jen. Hey, we got leaves. We got leaves. All right, I need some yellow. I need some orangey yellow because leaves tend to turn an orangey yellow, except when they don't. But these leaves I want to turn orangey yellow because I want some orange leaves and some red leaves to go along with all my other leaves. And we were using cat's eye and some naga. And I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to go up. All right. Yes. All right. Cool. Now, you do notice as I went more dark with my leaves, I did actually cover up more of the underpainting, but that's all right. We just have to paint in the highlights. So I'm going to start out with one. Oh, no, my cat's eye. My cat's eye separated. Oh, noes. Now I must go and take that out of the palette. So when you get the watery drop, for those of you who are baby painters and not part of the regular crowd, when you get that watery drop of paint, do not put more paint into it. Just take your Kleenex or your whatever, paper towel, whatever you keep to hand at your painting bench, and pull that right out of there because it's mostly binder. And if you continue to put paint in there, you're still going to have an off ratio of paint to binder. It's still not going to cover as well, no matter how many. I mean, I guess eventually you put like 12 drops of paint in there, you're going to be fine, but do you really want to waste 12 drops of paint on that just because you didn't like shake your paint well enough? No. No, you don't. No, you don't, people. And I need to also grab, where is that? I also I want to prime the bottom, the green stuff that we did last time. Let's get in focus. Focus. Minis in the Shadow of the Weird Wizard RPG Kickstarter. Oh, they sourced them from greens. Well, there are still a lot of sculptors that work from greens, though. And, I mean, it depends, I guess, on who you go with. Like I think a lot of, like, the classic sculptors, because a lot of these people, like sculptors like Bob and Julie, like, who have been in the biz for a long time and are very experienced with 28mm and have a reputation for 28mm, a lot of those people are still out there doing work. And much like Bob and Julie, you know, when you're that good at green, why would you blow a year or more learning to be okay at digital, right? Like, you always have to, it's like me in sculpting. Could I learn to sculpt? Oh yeah, I could. Would I be good? Eventually, yes, because I'm just that kind of person. Like, I would put work into it until I got good. But is it really worth it to me to spend the 2 or 3 years that would take me to get to where I wanted to be when I've got all these other things that are really high priority for me and I'm already a good painter? You know, so it's all like, it's opportunity cost. It's the clearest version of opportunity cost. So I'm not surprised that there are still really good 28mm sculptors out there working in green, because a lot of those people will look at that opportunity cost and they'll go, yeah, but I'm still awesome in this media, so I don't really want to go and blow the money, time, brain cells to learn a new media. Yeah, and I totally get it, Julie. Like, especially when it's like, it's an alien being, right? Like, I'm pretty computer savvy, but those 3D programs are a new beast, right? They're a totally different beast. So I totally get also that there's a huge learning curve, right? And that's what part of the time is. And some people really enjoy that kind of challenge, and I do. I do actually. I'm one of those people. But at the same time, again, it's the opportunity cost, and it's just like, you know, do I really want it that bad? No, I really want to write more books. You know, it's like, in your case, you're like, but I'm already so good at this, and I spent years, decades getting this good. Why do I switch now and put myself back at ground zero? And there are some kinds of people who, and I have that strength in my top 5. I'm a learner. I really enjoy learning new things, which is why I keep thinking about it. But at the same time, it's like, well, but the other new things I could learn is how to advertise my book better. So, you know, again, we could do so many things, guys. There are just so many things to do in the world. And you all know it because you all try to make time for your miniature painting, right? And you know how the desire to do all of the cool things can, you know, really conflict you in the end. So it helps to get a really clear picture of what your ultimate priorities are before you stumble into that Pandora's box. I'm going to mix just a little water into the Reaper Primer. I find that this is advisable. Reaper Primer out the gate is pretty strong, and it will fill in detail. I like to thin it just a little, like 5:1, 6:1. Yeah, ZBrush. Yeah, oh yeah, Cat is just like, whoa. Hey, Agent Marvel. Yeah, and you still have to make a living. Yeah, exactly. So for you, then, for Bob and Julie, then, and people like them, the question becomes, like, I still have to make a living at this. Is this going to pay off for me? Am I going to be able to do something with the 3D that I'm not going to be able to do with my green stuff, right? Is it going to open a door to me that's going to help me essentially make a better living or improve, you know, my quality of life somehow, right? Like if somebody's having an allergic reaction to green, I could totally see them spending the time to go to 3D because then it makes sense, right? But if you're still perfectly functional with your green stuff, oh, allergy pill, Quindy. It's totally sniffly here. But yeah, I agree. I've tried Sculptress, which was the free version of ZBrush, I think, and it did feel like sculpting. But it's just there's so many commands, there's so many things. Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of cool that they sourced from that, and it could also be that that maybe they wanted that old school feel. So I'm just getting these little leaves. Just wasn't interesting. Yeah, it's good to try things. I mean, when you do have a learner mindset and you do like learning new things and you are intrigued by something, it's totally worth giving it a shot. But it's also just perfectly valid to decide, okay, this isn't for me. And in a lot of ways, Seth Godin talks about this in one of his books. He's like, the most effective people, as you're trying to figure out what you are meant for in this life, the most effective people can look at a thing and honestly ask themselves, is this thing for me? Some people will get so wrapped up in having already put X amount of time into it that they just won't let it go. And in reality, this is essentially a bad thing for them, right? So being able to pick something up, look at it, realize, you know, I may have spent a bunch of time on this, but I don't think it's for me. And moving on to the next thing, because your gut says that it's just not quite right, very valid and actually a good tactic. Now, you got to watch yourself because some people are just inveterate, will do that for the rest of their life type of people. And, you know, if they're happy, why not, right? But if you are looking for the thing for you, like what you are meant to do in this life, if you are trying to find the thing, whether you're doing it because you're younger or because you're actually retired and actually have time to do the thing now, you know, that's it's something to keep in mind. If your gut says that, and try to, you know, you got to try to filter. Sometimes your gut's just afraid. Sometimes your gut's like, but this is so hard and I don't know if I can make this work for me. But if it's more like, as you say, I'm just not interested enough in this, I don't think that it says, you know, it's right for me, then that's totally valid. There we go. So we've got some, do some primer here. We've got our rough leaf bits here. I'm just going to paint in a little bit more here. I do have a very rough tip on this one. I didn't blend it very well, so I may go back into that. Okay, who's, oh, Sagebrush. I'm sorry, I missed your question, Sagebrush. 1 second. Let me go look at it, Sagebrush. Turgeon is being very good about handling the ball for me, but I should, if your paint is pretty thick. Sagebrush also depends, yeah, is it Reaper paint is the question. So my questions are first to figure out, is it Reaper paint? How old is the bottle? How long have you had it? But some paint brands are just thicker, honestly. That said, if you don't like that consistency, all you have to do is just, as Turgeon says, add some water. And I actually go more than that. I don't start at 2 to 4. I start at 8 to 10, because you've got, in a Reaper bottle, you've got about 400 drops of paint. So 10 drops is like nothing. But if the bottle's half empty, then I might do 5 or 6. Yeah, I mean, we're at a good point in the industry right now where, and it's kind of a teetery point, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes, right? Because 3D sculpting is kind of the wave right now. And there is a danger that over time, if that truly becomes the dominant form, then the facilities to produce screens will get rarer and rarer, right? You'll still have some vulcanizers and foundries, but you won't have a ton, right? You won't have as many. And the number of those has probably been shrinking already. So that's the danger of the green, right? It's just that we may see in the future, if digital sculpting takes everything by storm, we may see the sculptors that that work in green, like organizing, right, and creating essentially a foundry that can do the work for them, and then all doing that. We may see some people just picking up a vulcanizer and a spin caster and doing their own company from nothing. That's what Reaper started. So, you know, yeah, Siocast. But you know what? But except that Siocast is just as feasible with 3D sculpt. I mean, we use Siocast for Bones USA, and all of Bobby's sculpts are ZBrush. So I think hopefully it'll keep everybody in the game. But I see Siocast as just another form of spin casting. It's just different, right? I don't think it matters so much where, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it matters so much where the green comes from there, where the original design comes from. But if Siocast makes it more feasible to work with green, then awesome. Yeah. Yeah, but I'd be curious too of your mindset there, Valandar, why you think. But yeah, agreed Valandar, that the no, Sherwin-Williams was we used a big pigment companies for our main pigments. Why, Pendrake? Also be advised that that's proprietary information, Pendrake, so I can't give you a straight answer on that. Just be aware. Oh, cool. Excellent, Turgeon. Sweet. Yeah, I was just wondering about that this morning. I was wondering what people thought of it. I tried to make it really, really basic. There's a lot more. Actually, I'm gonna take my knife here, guys, and just like try to slice off a little bit of this screen. Just make it a little more level with the substrate. There we are. It's a little better. I don't want to take it all off, but I want to make it smoother where it comes up on there. That's better. Cheapness of the machines and the material. Siocast will help keep greens viable because the source model could be either green or print. Special processes won't be needed to handle a green. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, why do you ask, Pendrake? Is there news on that? You know, news, that thing I avoid. Because I don't mind getting my news, like, through the stream. That's okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Slayer. Like, you can totally cut and trim green once it's dry. Like, I still have a little bit of a lip here, but... And I may have to cut it again. But yeah, green is fine. Yeah, scanning tech is improving now as well. Yes, usually tell someone starting out to go digital. I can see that. I mean, because for one thing, if you learn to digitally sculpt, more is open to you than the world of miniatures. The world of action figures opens up. The world of movie animation opens up. ZBrush is used for a lot more than just sculpting models, like miniature models. That's okay, Pendrake. Oh, exploded. I wonder if they mixed, yeah, I wonder if that was a pressure thing. I wonder what happened. Yeah, keep me up on that. Maybe I'll go look it up and find out if there's a reason for it. It was specifically a pigment factory or a paint factory, Pendrake? I hope nobody was hurt. All right, there we go. Scraped it a little bit more. I think that's better now. Right. Yeah, I hope nobody was hurt. I think I knew people from that factory. Because we did work with Sherwin-Williams on some stuff. Like, I've met some of their paint chemists. Yes, Twisted Oma. The fundamentals of miniature painting videos go up on my Patreon first. Though, Twisted Oma, be aware, I have a free level now. And the free level gets those videos early. Like, everybody on my Patreon gets the fundamentals videos early. But yes, I finally did the fundamentals video on layering, guys. I finally sat down and did it and edited it, and it is ready. And Turgeon at least thinks it's good, so yay. There we go. Yeah, I'm much happier with that leaf down there now. All right, cool. Let's get back to what we were actually going to do today. 16 fire trucks. Nobody killed. Okay, good. 1 a.m. Yeah, so only security probably was injured. 1 a.m.? It must have been something under pressure, because they wouldn't have been actively mixing at that hour. Like, the easiest thing to blow up, the easiest thing to happen to blow things up with paint, is mixing a solvent-based flake with a water-based. You can get things blowing up. Because there are definitely flakes that you cannot put into water without them exploding. I called that a paint factory. Yeah, that's what I thought. It was a paint. Sherwin-Williams, although they do make some colorants, do not specialize in that. They are mostly paint. But yeah, I wonder, I almost think it had to be something under pressure, or maybe it's all the heat. Because I imagine, but paint bases don't normally react to heat, but yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what if they'll discover what it was. But yeah. So even if you have no money, you can become a patron of me, and you'll get essentially the only real benefit of it is that you're going to get the fundamentals videos early. It's a way for people to try out my Patreon and see if they like me and what I've got before they, subscribe to me every month. So I'm hoping this will encourage some people to eventually become $2 patrons, because really that's such a small level, so easy support level. So hopefully we'll see. That's one thing that happened when I posted on Instagram. I actually purposefully posted on Insta about my free level, and I got a ton of people off of it. So hopefully now they will be happy that they're going to get regular content. Lots of chaos in your lives right now. That's a bummer. That's always a suck for me. Like, that always impinges on my creativity. Julie, I hope you guys manage to get through it. No, you got to go to patreon.com/paintingbig. Then you can do it. Then you can do it, Twisted Oma. All right, so not only am I going to add this orangey yellow to this cat's eye green, but I am also going to add a little bit of white. Because the yellow itself does not have, it has a tiny bit of white in it for coverage, but it really doesn't have anything significant. So it's not going to lighten this color much. And I do want a little bit lighter as I go up toward this. So just a tiny bit of white. You saw I just squeezed out a tiny bit on the tip of the bottle and just pressed it against the side. This is my equivalent of the wet palette, where you just grab a little bit of white on your brush. There it is. There's all my links. You can click on the Patreon link and just sign up to the free level if you want to. I love it if you sign up for paid levels, because I have a ton of information at this point. We've got 3.5 years of information that I've done. And I went through and I read through all of Margaret is good enough every once in a while to post. I need to actually update the channel listing thread in my Discord. But there's a channel listing thread that has everything I've done and what month it's in, so you can find it easier. But I'm like, there's got to be other topics out there that I haven't tackled yet. I might end up doing some scenery stuff. This is a little not as yellow as I wanted it, but I'll try. It's really kind of like a very virulent, it's like chartreuse. I really think it needs just a tiny bit of white to gentle it out. Come on. Oh, cool, Slayer. Thank you. Thank you very much. total awesome. I hope you like it. I'm always excited when somebody orders my book. It gives me a happy moment. This morning I was working on my coaching thing that I'm doing with the strengths intensive with my strategic. It's very interesting to me. I actually am learning stuff. Like, I found out that people who take the Clifton Strengths Test, like writers who take this Clifton Strengths Test and who score high in strategic, which is my #1, are almost always pantsers. Go figure. Because the strategic strength is essentially when people like give you a situation and you can jump 3 steps forward and see like what's likely to happen in the future, that's strategic thinking, like as Clifton Strengths defines it. So like essentially it's a waste of time for many strategic people to plot because we're far better making decisions in the moment than we would be if we tried to write it all down, because our brains always are trying to find the best path forward. So, which can be a trap, by the way. It's a trap. But yeah, I found that interesting because I started out being a pantser, and for those who are not writer savvy, that means you write without an outline, without plotting. Most people are not 100% one or the other, and neither am I. I do actually do some mind mapping. I need a certain starting point before I go, and I think that's because I'm also a very strong thinking strength person. I have to think about stuff for a while. I enjoy it. Yeah, the Keeks, I mean, she's always happy when she's like getting mommy attention or daddy attention. Kiki's favorite thing is just to hang out with us and get attention and play, play with her toys. So this is actually her boring part of the day. So I left some white underpainting here to make these leaves stand out a little bit more. But I am using this color also to highlight the edges of the previous leaves. And I do need to bring in a little bit more detailing on these as we go. But like I said, we'll save that for a bit. I'm probably going to be tuning these kind of for a while with freehand. I want these. It always starts out, remember this when you start freehand. It always starts out clunky. It always starts out looking kind of like blah. It always starts out very basic. And the difference between a very basic freehand pattern and one that looks amazing is just the amount of time you spend refining it and adding small details. That's it. But it always looks clunky at first, guys. Always, always. At least for me. Yeah, and some of us, our strengths lie elsewhere, like Agent Marvel. That just, there are other reasons to be a pantser. Because the other one is, one of my top strengths is individualization. And what that lets me do, other than understand that all of you are totally different snowflake painters and that you're going to, find different things that will help you. And not everything, not every one thing is not going to help all of you. It's all going to be different. But it also helps me write really good characters. Very different characters, right? And so when I'm writing character-driven, it's like my strategic plotting brain and my understanding of the character help me figure out what would this character do next, right? And what is the best way for the story to go best, quote unquote, to go forward? What direction could be the most interesting or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thing. All right, now I'm going to make even a more yellowy color. And some white. So I want to transition pretty fast to yellow leaves here. But yeah, if you always have hated the outlining process and you just want to jump in, that means your brain probably has some kind of thing to it that it's okay with just pushing forward into the dark and just making you enjoy making, or you're better at making snap judgments on the fly. Whereas some people are much better at planning. Planning gives them a much better outcome. So you've got a nice warm yellow here, and I'm going to pop just a little green into this. Just a little. I'm going to keep that green around because I'm going to put it at the roots of some of these. But yeah, essentially listening to this video on strategic and how it works in writing is really interesting to me. Like that whole like most strategics are pantsers, and she's like, when I say most, I'm not talking like 60%. She's like, I'm talking like 85-90% of the strategic painters that she's coached, and she's coached thousands of people at this point, so thousands of writers and creatives. So it's a thing. But it makes me feel happy. I mean, I was happy with my current, like how my writing process is starting to evolve anyway, but knowing that I actually have a superpower to be an intuitive writer is actually pretty cool. So now, remember also that when you're doing this sort of thing, the color you put down first is going to be the strongest. So back here, I used this yellow-green, and I laid it down over the top of this darker green than the mixture that I had before. But here I'm putting down the yellow first, and then I'm going to put the green over the top, and that's going to influence how it looks. It's essentially colored underpainting. Yeah, so you probably have a lot of thinking skills. And I think also, Pendrick, just based on like how avid you are to hunt down facts and things, like I wouldn't be surprised if you had analytical as a top skill too. Or one of those other like track down the data kind of strengths. Which I totally do not have. I think analytical is one of my lower strengths. I'd have to look it up. There's a funny thing about like strategic and like deliberative and analytical are two strengths that work well together, and strategic is like totally opposite them. The strategic person will never need to read more than 65% of the study to jump to the conclusion. Whereas the deliberative or analytical person will absolutely want to read 100% of the study to get all of the facts and make sure that they understand if there are any outliers before they jump to their conclusion. So it's just two different styles of thinking, which is what this test is all about, really. Yeah, it's a personality test, but it really does talk about the way you think, which is always fascinating to me. I just like to think about thinking. But yeah, if you've ever tried to be a writer, it's a pretty fascinating thing to be learning all this stuff about the strengths and just seeing things kind of slot into place. But the problem with strategic writers is that you're always looking for the best route forward, and if you get in a bad place, like she always talks about strengths having balconies and basements, which I think is a Clifton thing. If your strength is in a balcony, it's functioning for you at the best in the best possible way, and if it's in a basement, then it's actively working against you. And the basement for strategic is just getting too caught up in trying to find the best way forward, and to the point where your brain is just iterating and iterating until it gets overwhelmed, and then you just spin around the drain for a long time and don't move. And you have to develop the ability to understand that there is no ultimate best. There is no magic bullet, right? My brain wants to look for the magic bullet. But I have to understand that actually, and this is good with painting too, this is absolutely true with painting. I used to just sit there forever, guys, and like just start a model and just be frozen. Like, or not even start the model and just be frozen, because I just couldn't decide on the best way to paint it, right? The best way. Like, there's got to be a great way to paint this. I just have to come up with it. But I wouldn't start it. I would just sit there and stare at it. So this is absolutely true in writing, painting, and any other creative thing. But it's like, I had to understand that best is relative. There is a best in this moment, and I just need to move forward with the best that I can see right now. I can always reevaluate as I move forward. And as I got to trust my gut and my brain to figure out that way forward, I got out of that horrible freezy spot. I got out of that sit and stare at the model forever point, because I learned to trust that even if I started the model in a way that I later understood wasn't the best way, I can always paint over it. I can always change my mind. I can always reiterate. You know, if I get a better idea as I'm painting, I can stop and execute on that better idea. It's okay. I expect that. And that's why strategic writers are such bad plotters. Because some of us will plot the book, and then deviate from it almost immediately because we'll spot a better way. So writing it all down was a waste of time. See, I would be fascinated to see your Clifton Strengths, Bryce. I don't know if any of your jobs have ever had you take the Clifton Strengths test, but I'm in love with it. I'm absolutely in love with it. It makes so much sense to me to like learn these things about my thinking process. It explains so much. I wish I would have found out about it ages ago. It's like one of the few personality tests that is backed by a ton of science for over 40 years of science at this point. But yeah, it's like I had to get to the point where I understood that starting the model didn't lock me in, right? It wasn't a, once I start this, oh my God, I'm going to be locked in and I have to just go. That's never true. Like, even if you've sculpted or converted a model, there have been times where I've been working on, I'm stopped right now on a model that I decided I converted it and I liked it, and I converted it and I liked it, and then I made the decision to chop the hand off. Yeah, and to totally like resculpt it, and that like stopped me. Like, all right, and what stopped me was like, oh my God, I've gone too far now. When in reality, it's like, it's also the fear of this. I've never done this before, right? I've never resculpted a hand. So I've stopped on that model for now, but I periodically revisit it and make my brain understand that this isn't a done deal. This isn't like you haven't blown it up. You can fix this. It's okay. You just need to wait until you're inspired to work on it, right? So it's just like, no, it's my Circe model, Circe bust. I decided I wanted the one hand, there was one hand that was doing like nothing. That was like useless. So I chopped off that part, and I wanted to make her kind of dangling like kind of a drinking cup off one finger. And it's just making the drinking cup is now where I'm at, and I'm just like, I just ran out of oomph on it. Like I ran out of oomph. One of these days I'm going to go back to that sucker and nail it. But there was definitely a fear period that froze me in there about oh my God, I've gone too far. I can't go back. I can't whatever. And just getting over that and saying, no, I could do something different. I could just sculpt, I could just put a flat surface and take this hand completely out of the equation and not do what I was going to do. I could do that. It's okay, right? Right. Oh, and I would have said it too. Agent Marvel. I was the type to talk up to my teachers. Scared to F it up is different. Yeah, but best is relative. Best is relative. Not everybody's getting stuck because they're strategic. Every other strength, and there are 34 of them, could be in your top 5, and that could be the strength that is sticking you. There are plenty of other ways to be stuck. Every strength has a stuck. Because every strength has one thing that it's looking for. So like for my intellection strength, my intellection wants to think about things. It wants to mull over things again and again and again and polish the idea again and again and again. And my intellection is wonderful when I'm editing because it polishes the writing. It sees ways to improve the writing just by thinking over it again. And then it can shift things and make things beautiful, right? Like that's where I come in on that. But if I let that strength interfere with my actual writing process, it will want to think about things too long and it won't want to act. And that's the frustration. So every strength has a frustration. That's part of what it is. For a strength like, there's a strength called activator. Activator always wants to just jump in. It wants to jump in and run, and when it runs into a wall, it stops and looks around and is like, here, and it starts running again. And it's frustrating to activator people when they come up against those barriers that keep them from acting right away. But at the same time, like that's part and parcel. They're getting frustrated because they are really good at starting things, right? They're really good at getting moving. So it's like the thing that frustrates them is also the thing that is their strength. And it's all the same. So no matter what kind of thinker or what kind of person you are, whatever your superpower is, or whatever the thing that frustrates you the most is, look at it from that perspective. Try looking at it and saying, okay, why am I frustrated? I'm frustrated because I can't blah. And blahing is one of my biggest strengths. It's something that I depend on, right, in my everyday life, something I always do, or always, it's a way I always think, it's a way I need to execute, you know, that kind of thing. So like my focus. Focus demands, for me to be a very, very functional Anne, to be my optimal Anne, I would devote every day to one thing, because my focus wants to put on blinders and shut out everything else and just do one thing every day. And then that makes my focus the happiest little focus in all the world. It loves it. It so loves it. But it can't do that every day. It can't. Today it has to do several different things. And it's sitting there in the corner grousing at me right now. I kind of imagine my top 5 strengths as Inside Out characters. So focus is grousing because it wants to do just one thing. But that's its superpower, right? It can't do every one thing, so just one thing, so it's frustrated. But when it can do one thing, it's amazing. So if things are frustrating you about the way you think or the way you take action, kind of like look at those and say, well, what's the flip side of this? When I do get the ability to do X, that's a strength for me, right? And maybe then if you understand that, even without taking the silly test, you'll be like, oh, maybe that's kind of a superpower for me. Maybe I can lean into that more and develop it, you know, be more conscious of it. I don't want to work on it right now, though, Pendrake. It's just an example. And I want to sculpt it myself. I was actually going to use cosplay. Like, I was looking for the right material to do it, and I think the plasticky feel of cosplay is going to let me get the right surface I want. You find lots of ways to get stuck, but not because you don't know what you want. Have you taken the Clifton Strengths Test, Zachariah, at any point as part of your... A lot of employers will have you take it because they like to know what your strengths are so that they can, you know, work with you appropriately. Like, evolved companies like to do that. I think I'm going to go for Volcanic Orange, guys, with the orangey shift. Now we're going to go to Pure Yellow, and we're going to go to bits of orange on it. Yeah, you really should take the test. Clifton Strengths. Oh, it's one of those personality tests, Bryce, but like I said, it's backed by its Gallup organization, and they have like 40 years of research into, and the reason I love it is it's not trying to figure out what's wrong with people. They study the people who are best at what they did, and they quantified traits out of that. So it's all about like human potential and seeking the best version of yourself, which is, you know, totally an Anne, like, oh my God, like, I just want to jump into that idea and paddle around in it. That's like more of my essence than anything. So it's actually, if you want to use the hokey 60s term, it's self-actualization. It's about that. It's about finding out what your strengths are so that you can lean more into those, because they found that even though our culture likes to say, try to work on your weaknesses, that actually isn't the most effective way to be successful in life. The most successful way is to figure out your strengths and develop those strengths. And then if you have a weakness, go look for the guy who's really good at that. If you're not an ideas person, one of your friends or coworkers is, find that dude and work with them, right? And so it just feels like it, of all, and I've taken a ton of personality tests, but this one is the most exhaustive and the most like feels the right. It feels so right to me. And it's really informing my creative process, as you can tell. Yeah, it's by Gallup and it's affordable. Yep. In fact, if you go out and buy the book, you can take the small version, but I do think and that'll get you your top 5. But if you want your full 34 to see where your weak points are and your top 10, I think really is strong. So like top 5 are your superpowers, but top 10 are still significant. And once you've taken it, you'll want to know everybody else's. But yeah, so it was really interesting to me. It was really, and it's really informed, like I said, like understanding why I get stuck. It's been really good for that. I like it a lot. And it's also been really good about getting my butt in gear, because I am a thinker, and intellection is like always wanting to just think about it and think about it and think about it. But because I know that, I can watch for when it becomes a hindrance. And I can say, okay, we've thought enough. Yes. 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 Agent Marvel. Yes. Yeah, well, if nothing else, Zachariah, you could if you spring for the top 5, you can always up it. Like, you can pay more, you can pay the extra down the line to get the full 34. I did that because I wanted to check it out. So I originally just did my top 5, and I was just like so excited when I got my top 5 that eventually I saved up the money and did the full 34. Your Inside Out characters all look like NASA engineers from the late 60s. Oh, Pendrake, what I wouldn't give to see what your strengths are. Like, you must have so many, like, ordered and analytical and deliberative, and I could see it. You probably intellection, because you seem to like thinking. If you like thinking, you probably have intellection somewhere in your top 10, because that's the skill that just likes to think. But it's also the skill that would like re-edit my book 100 times if I let it. And I had to come to an understanding with it and say, dude, listen, we do not need to re-edit the book 100 times. We only need to re-edit the book like 15 times. That is hilarious, though, Pendrake. Yeah, take a look at it, Bryce. If you're interested in that sort of thing, if you're interested in personal development, and I think you are, it's at least read about it. It's a very interesting thing, and like I said, it's really helped me understand some of the things that stop me in my creative process. Because the whole reason I encountered this thing is because there's a writing coach that teaches through it. She actually started out just getting to be a life coach with Gallup, but she's a writer, and so she ended up going that way and coaching writers and other creatives. But it definitely has a lot. I mean, so many people just do it in business, which is why I always ask people if their past, if one of their companies that they've worked for has had them do it, because that's pretty common. But it also has a lot. Like for me, it's been a game changer with just my creative process, and not just with writing, but with painting, because they're as you're working from your creative core, it's going to be the same set of strengths. So now I know that when it takes me a while to think about a model, that's just my strengths. That's what I do. Or if I just want to jump in, you know how sometimes, Pendrake, you'll ask me, so what are we doing on this model? And I'll go, I don't know, I'm just painting it. We'll figure out when we get there. That's my strategic. Because strategic wants to be in the moment. It doesn't want to plan ahead all those steps. For one thing, part of me really enjoys discovering it as I go along. And because I've gotten used to leaning into that strength and trusting myself to find a way out, to find my way through the model and come up with good ideas as I go, because I've learned now to trust that part of myself more, I'm just like, I don't even feel stressed about it. But some people, without that kind of strength, would feel hugely stressed by not knowing exactly where they were going with a model, right? Because that's a thing. The biggest thing about strengths is understanding that everybody is so different. Yeah, Myers-Briggs is different. Yeah, Myers-Briggs is the letters one. And it's, it's good. It's just, like, Clifton is incredibly exhaustive. I don't remember how many pages my full 34 write-up was, but it was a lot more. And it also, I feel like Myers-Briggs, I mean, it gives you like kind of one thing, right? This is you. But it didn't, like, it wasn't able to pin down the specific aspects of my personality that were holding me up, right? It can speak in generalities, but it doesn't have the same depth as the Clifton. On the TMNT test, I'm pretty sure I'm either a Donatello or a Michelangelo. Or no, I'm a Leonardo or a Michelangelo. Totally different, and yet, I don't know. On my bad days, on my days where I'm feeling like acting out, I'm definitely a Michelangelo. But anyway. But yeah, there are all sorts. I mean, there's Enneagram too, which also can be interesting. But as far as, and I've done all of those, honestly, and the one that I've gotten the most value out of with my process and understanding how I think and the best way for me to work is definitely Clifton. So now we're going to put down yellow and we're going to do the orange around the outside. And I will go back and I will make some striations and I will make some, I'll add some details to these leaves a little bit as we go. I feel like I need to trim some stuff up, but I also understand there's no hurry. There's no real hurry to do that. So. No, the TMNT and the is Myers-Briggs. We're making fun of Myers-Briggs by saying it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We're only gently kidding it, though. We wouldn't want it to get angry at us. So yeah, so the three that I know of that most people will end up running across Twistedoma are the Clifton Strengths, which is the big one that I was talking about. The Myers-Briggs, which gives you the TMNJ or whatever, INTJ or, all of those type of archetypes. Or the Enneagram, which is also interesting. And the Enneagram did tell me something. It's funny because the Enneagram nailed something about me that I feel like is kind of hidden in the Clifton Strengths. Like if I read through all my Clifton Strengths, I can get to that. But the Enneagram just took a big fat finger and nailed it. So I feel like these tests definitely are tuned towards slightly different things. But if you want to know what your strengths are so that you can capitalize on those and use that information to just become more functional and live a better you, then I feel like the Clifton Strengths is where you go. All right, so we've got some transitioning to orange here, and I'm trying to make my oranges a little bit different. This is a really yellow orange. That's a darker orange. I think I'm going to make this one a darker orange. Then I need to find a good red. And I think that I almost think I want maybe fire red. That's cool. You don't know this stuff. You don't have to know everything. We will never make fun of you for not knowing something on this stream. And if anybody does make fun of anybody else for not knowing something, I will kick their butt. So virtually, very ineffectually, but I will. The point here is that nobody knows everything, and we are all helping each other to learn things. That is the point. Because we are all friends here, and we are all cool in our own special ways. I'm going to just add a clogged fire red. Clogged my fire red. There we go. Better. Yes, give them a strong Luca shaking fist. Exactly. Yeah. There is no one way. And we do not expect you to know all the things. I just like to share things when I learn them. Well, I actually got through to that potential gut doctor this morning, so now I have a bunch of forms I need to fill out. Although he already has gone up in my estimation because apparently this particular guts doctor personally reviews every single forms thing from prospective patients. And from there, he decides whether he would actually like to see you in the office for more in-depth talk about what's going on with you, or if he just needs to schedule your procedure. But he actually cares enough to do that. So I'm already thumbs up. This is a positive sign. But you know what? I found that with medical specialists, I find that specialists are actually, in general, pretty cool. In general. Yeah, the Cube Farm that's sorted by colors. I don't remember that one, but yeah, my friend Bridget, Kiki's breeder, my friend, did that one with her business too. You wound up blue, yeah, I could see that. That one, I don't remember where I was on that one. Something says I had yellow and blue or something. I don't remember. I don't remember. But yeah, that was the one. It was interesting because that one is all about communication styles. I don't remember the name of that test, but it's all about how you communicate. And so that's another interesting test that can certainly help you, especially in your work life, but maybe also in your just personal life in general, is understanding how you communicate and how your style is different from other people communication styles, and that can help you in real life. I mean, honestly, it could be one of many, Richard. It could be just like, I'm just like not this isn't my goal, or this isn't for me, or this is harder than I want to do right now. I mean, it could be all sorts of things, but yes. It's that too much trouble skill, whatever that one is. This is too much trouble. Enough. I'm going to get my fire red out here. I'm going to do a mix of fire red and orange and do a nice big fat dark leaf over there, I think. We're running out of room here. We got to get to brown before I hit the edge. But there can be so many reasons why you run into a wall and give up on something. I mean, with art and creativity, though, often it's just like, this is more work than I anticipated, and I'm not up for it. And I keep over thinning my paint. I hate to say this. Well, I am trying to go over the top of like underpainting, but still I'm thinning it too much. But yeah, there is definitely a very valid, this is more trouble than it's worth for me kind of reaction to some techniques. Because as you can see, this is going to take a while. And you strike me as the type who just likes to get a nicely painted mini, a mini painted to your standards, like what you really want, something you can take pleasure in on the table, Richard. Like, you strike me as that type. And so, this kind of persnicketyness may just not be what you're up for. And that's fair. I think I want to do a red and yellow leaf. So my proof copy of my book should arrive tomorrow from Amazon. So Richard and Zachariah, if you have notes for me, even just I know you gave me a little bit of a note there. Richard and I really appreciated that, actually. I'll take a second look at it for sure. But yeah, if you have notes for me, start tossing them my way. If you don't have notes for me because you just loved it and you honestly didn't catch any typos or anything, then that's great too. That is fair. I just like having more eyeballs on the book because you just never know. But I'll be starting my own read through tomorrow, and so essentially that'll take me probably through the weekend. So it's not a big hurry to get me notes or anything. But it is now editing time, and my proofreader got me the first part of her run through. So it's about time to edit, folks. About time to edit. It's what? Is it the 8th today? It's about 3 weeks till I release. So now is the time for final polish. Let me go back to yellow down here. Actually, I can mix up these leaves a little, and I'll probably mix them up a lot more, honestly, as I go back into them to do a little bit more refinement. But I do want to mix it up a little bit. Oh, okay, cool. No, I probably got it. I just haven't checked it since yesterday afternoon. So all good, Zachariah, all good. I'll check for it though. If I don't get it, I'll let you know. But there's no reason I shouldn't have gotten it. Thank you though. Yeah, I mean, even my proofreader honestly said that she caught very few typos, which is awesome. Awesome, awesome. So I'm going to mix this up and around here at these leaves. Like, some of them are going to have red centers, some of them are going to be more red around the edges. And then down here, well, now we're going to start fading it out. Fading it to brown. I will come back through and do some more definition, like stems, you know, kind of that central vein down the middle of each of these. And what I think I'm going to do too is I'm going to put a glaze of yellow over this entire thing, because yellow is a unifying color that won't fight with anything else, and it will essentially blend in the darker lines that I've done. It'll blend them in a little bit better. But yeah, so it seems not too much grammar problems, or I mean, I edit enough as I go, honestly, that I do catch a lot, which is happy. I like it. But yeah, now we'll just try to catch those last few things and make the recommendation changes that you guys give me, and we'll be good. Then I'll just bug you when it's time to leave a review. And it doesn't have to be a tremendously long review. It could be just, you know, a short couple sentences if you want. Some of you, Richard likes, Richard and Turgeon both gave me beautiful long reviews last time, but, you know, you don't have to feel obligated to do it again or to do it for your first one. Honestly, a short review with something that you really liked about the book is worth it. And I really appreciate it, more than I can say. And it just helps. It helps so much, because like nobody wants to buy a book with 0 reviews. And we'll be trying hard to get book 2 up to 10 reviews again, guys. So for those of you who just want to pick it up when it comes out, I would love it if we could get this one up to that level. We'll see. All right, I'm going to go for a dead leaf color. Driftwood is a great dead leaf color. Very, very great. And if you want to, you can do orangey and red leaves down here and just fade them out with the driftwood. But I think I am going to go for brown first, and then... Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I will probably... I mean, I'll look at everything. And even if it's just one of you, like you made that suggestion, Richard, about like the abruptness of a certain transition, I could see that. Like if I read your comment and I'm like, yeah, I could see that, I will absolutely make a change. It probably won't be a big change. It'll just be a little bit of a change, right? And you don't even have to tell me, really, don't have to even suggest like the kind of change, because most writers, what we will do is we're looking for our betas to essentially say, this didn't work for me. This particular place didn't work for me. I think it's because it's too abrupt, or it's this, or it's that. But then we'll take that and we'll be like, okay, how would I write this to make it less abrupt? So it's never going to be a case where I'm going to take somebody's like direct suggestion. Like if you give me a rewrite of a paragraph, I'm never going to take that, because it has to be me, because I'm the writer. Otherwise, there's all sorts of things with copyright and all that. You know, you don't even want to get into it. But I'll totally take your suggestion and I'll iterate on it in a way that, you know, fits with my writing. But yeah, you're totally important. You're totally important. Like, I really appreciate you guys doing this. Like, it means a ton to me to have people who are willing to do this for me this time. Because I really didn't in the past, right? And so you kind of feel like, you kind of get a little tense when it comes to put the book out into the world, because you're just like, I don't have any, you know, I've been in an echo chamber. I have been in an echo chamber up to now. And now I see how the world feels, right? It's a very scary thing. All right, so driftwood, as you can see, driftwood is a pretty rich brown, and it actually goes pretty well with these oranges and stuff. So we're going to work with it. We're just going to put a bunch of brown leaves down here on the bottom, and we're going to put little bits of hints of oranges, yellows, and reds into them. Oh, and I forgot these leaves up the side. I need to give those. Hi, Kiki. Hi, it's not time yet, but I'll pet you. It's not time yet, but I'll pet you. Hi. Hello, happy dog. Good girl. Hi, what a good girl you are. You want to come up? You just want scritches? I can't paint and scritch you at the same time. It doesn't work very well. She's like, I want rubbins. Give me rubbins, please. Rubbins, Mama, rubbins. Good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. You are. Yeah? You want to come up and see the fam? You can come up and see the fam if you want. Or do you just want pettins? She might just want pettins. I've got this giant floofy tail here. I can kind of get it on camera. There it is, floofing a little. Yeah, I'm using your tail. Yes, hi. Hi. Good girl. All right, Bubba. I gotta work. Work. Yeah, I love you too. She gave me a little lick. It's very cute. It's very cute. You're very cute. You are. Yeah. Work. Gonna hang out with me? Yeah, that sounds good. No digging at the carpet, though, you little dog. Just plop. Nope, she's like, okay, if I can't dig at the carpet, then I'm not staying. But yeah, driftwood works, as you can see, really well for this. It's a nice, warm, it's fairly saturated. It's yellowy brown. I like it for dust effects and dirt effects, dried mud effects as well. But you are just being a disrupted dog right now. What is it, disrupted dog? I can't stop and pet you every time you come up, you know. And if you continue, good deal. I'm glad, Turgeon. I'm glad. No, I'm very happy to have all of you reading for me. And we'll see. Part of why I decided to start North of the Wind instead of going and trying to fit in my little cozy fantasy book 1 in between starting the next Bear Kings book is that I thought if I finish it with more time in advance, then maybe I can get a few more of you to beta read for me because you'll have more time, right? This one was kind of coming down to the wire. And I'd rather not do that. I'd rather have the next book, you know, in a good place several months before it's due to release so that I can maybe get a few more readers' eyes on it. So that is why we are starting North of the Wind. I'm collecting my notes for it as we speak. Because it's getting to be fall, and fall is writing season. Thanks to National Novel Writing Month. It's like been pegged in my brain for over a decade that fall is writing season. I say it's over 15 years now that I've been doing Nano. I think I started in like 2007. Yeah. Ruddy Leather is a little bit more utilitarian, I think. Nut Brown has that kind of purpley feel to it. Ruddy Leather is a very, very solid mix of like several different oxides, and so it's very mixable. It does have some black in it, but it's very, very mixable with other colors. There we go. Got our brown leaves in there. Brown leaves. Just want to get a nice solid coat on here. And I do want to trim up these edges a little bit down here. They're pretty broad and they're a little bit, I've got a little bit of white lining coming along here. Yeah. All right. Get a little bit of red here. little bit of orange up next. What's up, Bob? Yeah? Silly dog? She's hanging out. Just checking on her from time to time. Because she's snoodling around. Snoodling around my writing desk, my standing desk back there. Alright, I want to put a little bit of red in some of these orange leaves. And a little bit more orange in some of these yellow leaves. And then a little bit of yellow in some of these green leaves, because I want to mix it up a little bit and make it look much more organic. Alright, I'm going to put that glaze, I think, over everything. I'm going to be coming more over some stuff too, but I'm going to grab this yellow. I'm going to make it a glaze. Light glazes are challenging because they almost always have white in them, and you need to get a very even coat down when you're doing a high coverage glaze. Very even, extremely even. Industrial coatings and resins. Okay, so maybe it was a solvent type base that. I think I need this. Yeah, that might be okay. All right. I think this might be all right. Colored water. It looks more opaque, but it's definitely colored water. So I'm going to try it. Now I need a big brush for this because we're covering a big surface and we want to do it fast and have time to wick off that fluid. So, grab this. Now this will affect the color. If I'm doing a big surface like this, I actually have a fair amount of paint on my brush. It's distending the tip. You can see how much is in there. Well, if one thing went up, so this may feel like you're wrecking it, but just go with it, bubs. Just go with it. Here we go. So I've got all this. This is one way to apply a glaze. I will be doing glazing as my next fundamental video. Fundamentals on YouTube. So I will talk about the two different ways that you can apply a glaze when I do those. But you want to slurp off all of the little pools. All of the pools. Pull them all off. And while your paint is still really wet, which is the advantage of doing that big puddly glaze that I did, but while your paint is still really, really wet, you can pretty much pull it right off the face of the model, like off the flat surfaces or whatever. But if you're doing a more a drier glaze with less pooling, then you've got to be very careful with touching the face of the model after a certain point. So I still have a little time probably down here. There we go. But see how it's faded in those leaf lines, those dark lines between the leaves. And that's what I wanted. When you put that layer of color down over that like dark underpainting, and this is also a way to integrate like fine cracks on the statues and marble. You want to, oh thanks Eons of Battle. But yeah, when you put down this layer of glaze over the top of that kind of thing, you can make it look more integrated and more apart, more organically a part of everything. So But like I said, when you're doing a lighter glaze, you can see it's kind of foggy. It's kind of, it used to look like it was just like a pen and ink sketch, right, with this dark, the dark spaces between the leaves. But now we've got very much more of a faded look with those shadows, right? So it's less sharp, but it's more organic. And so, but when you do those lighter glazes, you're going to get that foggy effect, which is great for this sort of thing. But because lighter colors have high opacity, that's where you can get in trouble if you start like trying to touch the surface. After a certain point, you will strip up paint and make brush marks. So you gotta be careful. Gotta be careful. Dark glazes are much easier. Dark and mid, like those are the easy glazes where the paint is somewhat translucent, especially with Master Series, where the paint is somewhat translucent anyway. So you're just like capitalizing on the strength of the paint at that point. And yeah, so that works. Now we have a lot more to do, believe it or not. Although it is almost 11, that's probably a good point. I started more or less on time today, and I did go over before. I think I might kind of conclude it here. Maybe I'll mix a quick highlight and do a little bit of lighter color on the edges of these brown leaves on the bottom. So I'll mix some of my white into that. But otherwise, any questions, any comments, any, I don't know, random blurfed meme things? I have no idea. Yeah, tomorrow I get to dive back into making my book awesome. That makes me happy. And I haven't, because I've learned that my brain wants to, like, edit things much more than it actually needs to. I haven't read through West of the Moon nearly the zillion times that I read through East of the Sun, and so it still feels like it's not as much of a pain. Like, it was very painful doing that last edit on, many of those last edits on East of the Sun, because I had read the book so many times up to that point that I was just like, oh, this again, and it was just a slog. Whereas this book, I feel like not so much. Not so much. I can still enjoy it. I can still enjoy the process. It's not horrible. But yeah, so you can see that foggy, kind of foggy look. We will bring more work into this. We still have to do dark stems on the leaves. We still need to sharpen up and put more shadows in where these overlap. Like, I do want more shading. So I will be bringing that ancient oak back for another go to bring in shadows on all these leaves and make it look more like, because right now they don't look that much like they overlap, right? So we're going to do a combination of bringing the edges out, adding details, and adding in more shading to bring this cape really to life. But it's a good start. It's a good start. I would say this is about halfway through the process. Many of you would paint this and say, yay, it looks great, I'm done. But not Anne. Not Anne, dang it. Not Anne. Yeah, today's an okay day. I've got CrossFit tonight, so I'm kind of like, I'm of two minds with CrossFit. For a while there, I was always making stuff up, so I was actually doing it 3 days a week, and I actually like that better than the 2 days a week. But man, 3 days a week is expensive, and I don't think I can afford it. Going to be doing some 3 days a week anyway, because I need to make up all those times, the time over ReaperCon that I'm going to be missing. So just adding a little bit of lighter color here. I really like Slayer. I can do better. That's my strategic, Bryce. That's my strategic strength. Strategic is always looking for the way that you can do just a little bit better, and it's just one of the things that that keeps me moving. But it's definitely because it's a best-seeking strength. It wants to find the best way forward. So it's like, I could do just a little bit better. I could find a thing that works just a little bit better. But yeah, Slayer, I really enjoy them. I actually wore them to CrossFit for the first time last week because I wanted my feet to get used to them before I. But for the weights, for the weightlifting part of CrossFit, they're perfect because I can get so much more traction with my toes, right? They let you use your whole foot for balance. Instead of, with your toes, the way that our shoes work often is our toes are pretty passive, right? We're just kind of, they're curled up when we're using the platform of the shoe to stabilize. But I really like doing the weights with them. And the cardio and general, like, HIIT training, honestly, was pretty good with them, too, now that my foot is used to them. There we go. It's just a little bit more. I'll have to definitely bring some shadows in. Zero drop means that you don't have that thick sole, Pendrake. It's a zero drop shoe, has a sole, but it's thin enough. Yeah, Kiki heard somebody outside. It's thin enough that you can feel, like, the road. You can feel the ground through it. And it's usually built so that your toes actually have enough room and are built, like, where they can flex more. So, for me, it's nice because it encourages my foot to stay flexible, which I definitely had a problem with flexibility in my feet before, and it led to all sorts of other, like, knee issues and hip issues. Yeah. Yeah, the ones that I have a bigger toe box, so my toes can flex and actually, like, grip, which makes a huge difference for me. So yeah, and they're not that expensive because obviously you're paying for less materials. Depends on, there are definitely, like, Vibram is a brand where each toe has its own, like, space in the shoe, but those weirded me out. Mine are an off-brand that has a little bit of, like, kind of, like, toe, like, the treads underneath, like, give you the capability, but the toes aren't separate. Here, let me show you. They're right here, so I can show you. And the other thing I love about them is that they slip on. They Velcro. So they still have a sole, but you can see that they really don't have, like, this, the sole, there's just a very little cushion. Very, very little cushion. And then you see that you've got kind of like these toe shapes on the end. And essentially, you can see that the toes have separate treads. So I can actually grip with them a little better. I feel like my whole foot activates more. It is very, if your feet are weak, you will need time to adjust to these. Your feet may feel bad when you do a lot. Yeah, it's sort of a barefoot shoe. Yes, that's what a zero drop shoe is. It's the son of a barefoot shoe. But it has enough sole that it's not a complete, like, barefoot shoe. Because I did wear Vibrams at one point, but I was weirded out by the toe feel. I just looked for zero drop runner's shoes or walker's shoes, and I found this, and it led me to an Amazon listing, and I read the reviews and tried them. Yeah, Ultra is another one. Yeah, they can take getting used to because your foot is not used to taking this amount of, like, wear, right? Your foot is used to kind of sitting comfily cradled in a bunch of foam and stuff where it doesn't have to do much work. And these make your feet work. So I definitely, like, have to do them, like, every other day. Like, I do not wear them at this point in my stage of my thing. I wear them, like, every other day for my walk or my run. But yeah, like the fact that distance hikers wear them, yeah, because it gives you better grip, and when you're used to them, then it's hard to go back to other shoes. Yeah, I did too, Agent Marvel. I really like the feel of running in them. I really do. Like, they pound my feet a bit right now, and they definitely make my feet a bit sore at the end, but I can tell I'm acclimating, and I love them for CrossFit. They're just so lightweight. Like, that's the other thing about them is you don't have that big heavy shoe on the end of your foot. So I feel much more fleet when I'm running. But yeah. Oh, okay. That's good. Thanks, Darkness. Saguaro, huh? Yeah, I don't remember. These are just some off-brand. I don't remember what off-brand they are. But yeah, and these have a Velcro closure, which a lot of them, my Vibrams also had a Velcro closure, which I actually am a fan of. I can just slip them on, Velcro them, and go. I don't have to tie them. I can do higher box jumps now. Oh, box jumps are my worst, Bryce, because I definitely have balance issues. Like, that's kind of why I'm glad I started CrossFit, because I was working on that. But I tried to start with a slightly higher box, and I had to go down to the baby box because I couldn't do it. And I was just so scared and unsteady about it. Kiki, do not eat Mama's shoes. All right, Kiki's being a pain in the butt because she says it's time for her walk. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, be careful. I would say, like, yeah, if your feet, like, they're comfortable as anything. Like, they're comfortable as anything, but they will make your feet sore if you wear them a lot at first, especially if, like, you're overweight, if you're carrying a lot of weight. I think that just can put more pressure on your feet, right? So you definitely have to get used to them. What did you get? A dust bunny? Is that what you were looking for? Kiki's our biggest dust bunny hunter lately. But yes, have a great afternoon. Have to leave early for doctor's appointment. Okay, good luck, Turgeon. Good luck. Orthopedics for your feet. Ta-da! Yeah, I feel you. Hi, Papa. Papa says, oh wait, Kiki says, bye everybody. I'm going to jump on in and be a painful little dingo. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is a dog that wants her walk so bad, folks. She wants her walk so bad. Okay, Dingo, off my lap. Off my lap, Dingo. Leave. Leave. Be gone. Be gone, Dingo. Ah! Later, everybody. See you tomorrow. We'll paint something.